Hello, everyone. So it's really exciting today. We have a special partnership edition of our Girls Club Zooms with Girls to Grandmasters. They were a recipient of one of our St. Louis Chess Club program grants. They're based in New York City. Actually, one of the very last places I was live in the flesh inside my home for like the last 3 months. Was that Central Park event that you guys hosted in late February. So I have such fond memories of you guys now. And I want to introduce to you the co-founders, Nicole Mafia.
Hey guys, nice to see y'all.
And Karsten McVeigh.
Hi.
As well as Kimberly Du McVeigh, who is both a board member of Girls to Grandmasters, aka G2GM, and she's also the Women's Committee at US Chess, subcommittee chair of the Girls Club Room. Normally we're in the flash, but now we're doing a lot of Zoom programming. It's really fun. We miss seeing everybody in person, but it's a way to reach out to more people than we ever have. So we have a very special guest today, and I'll let Kristen introduce her.
Yeah, hi. So first, thank you so much to US Chess, Jen, and Rusa for joining G2GM for this special lecture. We're so honored to be a part of the chess community, and our February event was just the fondest of memories. We'd like to give a special shout out to Julia and Sean from David Yerman, who are joining us today, and we're super privileged to have Rusa Goletiani, women's grandmaster, international master, and former U.S. champion here with us today. And she's going to be lecturing on the importance of maintaining an initiative during an attack. Rusa?
Yes, hi everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. And we will be going over a Voretsky Schmidt game today. And I'm very excited to share my thoughts about this game with you.
You won the U.S. Women's Championship in 2005. Since then, you've kind of got into business. But you said that there was like a life lesson or a chess lesson about fighting for a win that was also embedded in this game. Do you want to tell us that before the game gets started, or do you want to do it when the game is in session?
Yeah, sure. I think chess overall teaches you many lessons, right? Whether it's decision making or especially being able to keep your head clear while under pressure. I think that's a big one in business and in finance, especially I'm in trading. So in trading, I definitely do get under pressure quite often. So the skills I acquired playing chess definitely is helping me in finance. And I'm forever grateful to this game.
Yeah, that's one of the top questions we get from girls in the Zoom classes, actually. It actually surprised me, but I'd say, how do you deal with pressure? Literally, it comes up in every Q&A. And usually in multiple permutations, like reworded in different ways. So I'm sure the girls will have a lot of questions for you about that as well. But yeah, the game, feel free to start sharing your screen.
Sure, let's do that. All right, here we are. This game is played between Voretsky and Schmidt. For those who don't know who Voretsky is, he's one of the strong players from Russia, as well as one of the best coaches in the world, I believe. He has raised many grandmasters. In this game, he's white. And one very interesting thing about this game is that he was playing in a really important tournament and he was leading it. So he said drawing this game would have been a really good result for him. So going into this game, he was thinking, if I draw, that'll be great because then I'll go into the last round as a leader and I'll have pretty good chances of winning the tournament. So let's get started. He's playing white pieces, e4. And there we go with c3 Sicilian. I think, Jen, you mentioned you played this opening, so you must be very familiar with some of the ideas in this game. I'm going to go through the openings fairly quickly and get to the really important point here where white starts to play quite actively. After d6, a3. A3 is an important move here. The idea of this move is to cover up b4 square and develop the bishop to d3. D3 is pretty powerful square for the bishop, lining up on b1, h7 diagonal. So a3 is very important to prevent knight b4. Knight c6 was played, bishop d3. Trading on e5, and now queen c7. And here is a very important point of this game. Pawn on e5 is hanging. Now white can castle here, give up the pawn, and get into a very sharp position. Let's not forget, Voretsky wanted to draw this game. Now, if he's going to castle and give up the pawn, this game will be very far away from a draw. It will get into a very sharp play, and anything could happen. Now, I just want to share my experience about playing for a draw. I recall playing in Georgian championship, actually, back in my home country in late 90s, actually, maybe a year or two before I came to the US. And I was leading the tournament. I had 6.5 out of 7. And I only needed 1 draw in my last 2 games in order to secure first place. Now, getting a first place would have been a highlight of my year, because by winning Georgian championship, I would be sent to play World Youth Championship and represent Georgia. Now, if I became in second, then I could go play European Championship. But third place, would basically keep me home. Now, one of the biggest mistakes for that tournament was me coming into the 8th round, playing for a draw, offering my opponent a draw, losing the game. And same thing happened in the 9th round. I came in thinking that I needed to draw the game in order to win the first place. I played for a draw, offered my opponent a draw in the middle game. My opponent declined. Psychologically, I got really upset. I started to play very nervously, and I ended up losing the game. Now, the reason why I remember it really well, like it was yesterday, because by losing both games, I came in 3rd, and that year I was not able to travel to the World Youth, and it was devastating for me. It was definitely a highlight of my whole year to go and travel and play the World Youth tournaments. And I remember resigning the game, thinking to myself, Rusa, just don't cry here in front of all the people, because inside I was bursting into tears. I was so upset. I remember rushing out of the playing hall, and there was a park right next to the tournament hall. I ran into the park, and I bursted in tears, crying my eyes out. Now, my friend who followed me, she wanted to approach me, make me feel better, but she told me I was crying so loud that she couldn't even come nearby. However, people that were walking by in the park were going to my friend and asking them why I was crying, if I lost my family member, why was I so devastated? And when my friend told them I lost a chess game, they all shook their head, probably thought I was completely insane, and walked away. I'll never forget that. And the lesson learned from that tournament is that I can never play for a draw. Playing for a draw often means you have to say no to best moves, which can be pretty bad, right? Because then you're choosing second best move and you're not playing your best game. And that's exactly what happened here. Dvoretsky said he could either castle, which he thought was the best move, give up the pawn, get into a sharp game, or play more defensively, but then that was not in his heart, right? So he actually made the right decision and went for a more aggressive play. So Dvoretsky castles here, black captures the pawn, and then here we go. White's down a pawn, but now we have this check, which forces black to lose castle, and white gets a great initiative for a pawn. Now, I believe king e7 was slightly better than bishop d7. That was what was played in the game. Now, king e7, though, psychologically is a hard move to play because you're blocking your bishop, and it just doesn't look that great. However, black can play f6 later, maybe move the king over to f7, and be able to develop a little bit faster that way. But in the game, black played bishop d7, and then after bishop takes, king takes, white has a really nice position here. Okay, so what do we do next here, right? It's important to keep building pressure, and it's important to keep getting pieces out with a tempo. One thing that is important to do for white is not give black time, because if black gets time, they might be able to complete their development, and they'll just end up being up a pawn. So as white, it's extremely important to keep pressuring black's pieces. For example, how do we develop in this position? A couple of nice moves, would be knight c3, and rook e1, right? If we compare knight c3 to rook e1, in my mind, rook e1 definitely looks better. Why? Because it immediately creates a threat, whereas knight c3 is a little slow because there is no immediate threat, and black now is able to play bishop d6, threaten checkmate in one, gain a tempo, connect the rooks, and maybe even escape with the king. So white plays rook e1 here, great move, get the new piece into the game with a tempo. Queen went to d6 to try to unpin the knight, and queen f3. Now, what is white's idea here? As I mentioned before, it's very important to get the pieces out with a tempo, keep attacking black pieces, but also it's important to ask which black piece is defending the king the most, right? Obviously, queen is pretty powerful, but that knight on d5 is one of the best pieces right now, covering up king on d7. So white's main idea here is to try to trade the knight on d5. Now, if that happens, then white will be able to bring the rooks into the middle and really start attacking the king. So that's what white is trying here. After queen f3, king moves back to defend the pawn, and there we go, knight c3. After knight c3, we are attacking the knight on d5. That's why black has to pretty much play rook d8 to defend it. And then again, bishop comes out with a tempo. Yeah, notice how, again, every move white makes comes with a tempo and keeps creating pressure in black's position. Black played f6 here. Another option would have been bishop e7. Although even after bishop e7, I think white's position is pretty good because we can just take, king takes, and then get the last piece into the game, threatening to take on d5. King has to go back, take, and then queen e3. And white just has way too many threats, right? A7 pawn is hanging, and there are also some tactics starting to come up. White's threatening to take on d5, right? It's
Like, for instance, do you want to show them what happens in like d4 or something? That's kind of fun.
Black plays a6 to defend the pawn.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, then we just take on d5. Queen takes. And a beautiful checkmate here with the queen sacrifice.
Yeah, nice. I had the same idea, if d4 instead of a6, you can just take it with a rook, right? So
same thing. Yeah, I guess the main problem is that black is pretty much down a piece here, right? That rook on h8 is not in the game. It will be hard to fight with the white's three really strong, powerful pieces here. So no matter what black does here, they're pretty much in trouble. So instead of bishop e7, black played f6. And what should white do here, right? I mean, one of my favorite quotes in chess is to always look at your attacking moves, right? I think every coach tries to teach that to their students, because often, if we are in danger, we naturally want to move the piece away, and we kind of concentrate on that threat. Especially kids, I think they start to panic when they're in danger, but it's so important to remember that you should always look at attacking moves, right? Even if you're in check, because sometimes when you're in check, you can get out of check and attack your opponent, right? So attacking moves should definitely be a priority on your list. And here, white has a beautiful move, right? We don't have to move the bishop immediately. I can play rook a to d1, get my last piece into the game, and defend my bishop because I'm creating a threat now on g5. So that way, black can't really take my bishop. That looks pretty bad. So king moved to f7. As I mentioned before, that knight on d5 is probably one of the best pieces in covering up the king. So finally, white gets achieves its goal. It trades the knight, and after pawn takes, bishop comes to f4, and then queen b6. And I feel like this is another critical position of this game. What do we do here? Jen, what do you think white should do in this position?
Take a pawn.
See, that's the tricky, I tricked you into it, right? Taking the pawn definitely looks very tempting. And you probably agree, I mean, playing down a pawn or down by material is not easy, right? Because yes, you do have this initiative, but you constantly have that nagging feeling of, oh, you know, I'm down by material. And if I'm not able to, you know, attack the king and checkmate the king, if black escapes here, then endgame will probably be lost for white, right? And here we get a chance to recapture that pawn, and it's very difficult to say no to that, right? But unfortunately, it's not the best move. The reason why it's not the best move, because it lets black out of the hook here. If you take on d5, black is actually able to complete his development by playing bishop c5, finally connecting the rooks, and all of a sudden, white's initiative is disappearing.
Right, and queen h5, unfortunately, you have g6, which doesn't give me the time to capture your bishop on c5.
Exactly, right. And then I think as long as that rook in h8 gets into the game, even if black is slightly worse, it's a completely different game here, right? And white's definitely giving up a lot of play. So I think that's a tricky part of this game, right? You know, especially for kids, not to take that pawn is very hard, right? Even for a strong player, psychologically, you know, you want to take that pawn, and probably at this point you don't have a whole lot of time left on your clock either. So you at least feel like, okay, I'll get that pawn. Material is equal. I'm still slightly better, but it's not the same. You probably the win will probably slip away if you take on d5. Whenever you have initiative, again, the main focus should be, how do I stop my opponent from developing, and how do I stop them from running away, right? Getting that rook into the game and hiding that king, right? And if you spend a little bit more time here, you realize there are two beautiful open files here, you know, E file and C file. Now I already have my rook on E file, and why not get my D rook on C file, right? As we know, rooks belong to open files. And by bringing my rook to C1 here, I think the game at this point is pretty much over, because I literally stop black from getting his pieces out. Now, what happens if black plays bishop c5? Well, now I have b4 move. I can easily chase it away. They can't really play bishop d6, because then d5 pawn hangs. And then if bishop e7, then there we go. We finally penetrate, pin the bishop. And I think black will have a lot of problems here. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I just missed bishop c7 as well, right? I don't know which move is better.
Bishop c7. Yeah, you know, the thing about rook c1, it can be a little hard to see, only because the rook looks really powerful on d1 as well. So you're like trading a powerful square for an even more powerful square.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a really hard one. But, you know, here on d5, I guess your best outcome is to take on d5 and recapture that pawn. But if you play rook c1, then you are penetrating into black's position, and you're you know, you have a lot more threats. So, but I agree, it's a very difficult move to play. But after rook c1, I think black is now falling apart, because if he tries to play rook d7, which he actually did in the game, try to stop the rook from coming to 7th rank. Well, the 7th rank is not the only rank we can get into. Right now we can get into the 8th. And that looks amazing as well, because again, we're stopping the bishop from coming out and tying black's pieces down. Now black tried to develop from the other side, playing g6, trying to play bishop g7. But here we go, another powerful move. Now, okay, I was gonna play, but maybe should pause for a minute, right? What piece can we improve here? Rooks look great. Bishop looks pretty good. I think queen could probably do a little bit more, right? And on f3, it's not really doing a whole lot. So it's important to find better squares for your pieces throughout the whole game, and constantly think about, how can I improve my position by improving my pieces, and how I can connect my pieces to have them work well together. So queen e2 is a beautiful move here. Again, threatening to penetrate to e8. And after queen e8, rook on d7 is going to hang. Now, Let's see what happens if rook goes to e7. The good thing about chess is, you know, when you have all your pieces developed and your opponent is behind in development, tactics just come up like naturally, right? So it's very important to look for tactics when you have all your pieces placed in good squares, like here. So there's a very nice tactic here. Rook takes f8. And then doesn't matter which way black takes. Okay, let's look at this here and then just take on e7, right? Yeah, I mean, king now escape, but white's up a piece. Well, actually, that escape is not for too long, right? Because dark squares are pretty weak. I think it's pretty much checkmate here. Yeah, it looks like, right? If rook f7, then we just go queen e8. All right, so rook e7 doesn't do the job. Black tried to run away with the king. Again, taking that square away from the bishop. And then we penetrate. And as you can see, as soon as white pieces go into black's territory, black's position falls apart. Versus if we took the pawn on d5 earlier, then we let the black develop, and we wouldn't be able to get in like this. So now rook is hanging. I don't think he can save the rook here. The only safe move, or temporarily safe move, is rook f7. But again, tactics keep coming up. We have beautiful bishop h6 check. That's another line I love to tell my students. Always look at checks and captures, right? I mean, goes alongside of attacking moves. But sometimes, you know, it's easy to forget about checks, especially if it's not that obvious, right? Actually, this went against me one time when I played U.S. Championship. I think I played against Tatev that game. I remember it was my 40th move. So one move left to make the time control. I saw check, looked pretty good. I was not blundering anything. I didn't have much time to think about it. It was the only check in the position. It looked good. I quickly played it to make the time control. Turned out that was the only bad move in the position. Anything else would have given me a good position, but that check was the one that got me in trouble. So sometimes checks could work against you, right? But in an attacking position like this, you know, you should definitely look at checks and captures and take advantage of them. So here, if king goes to g8, we have a beautiful checkmate again. Who doesn't love sacrificing their queen? Yeah, I won a couple of games by giving up my queen. Those are the best. And then if king takes on h6, we just grab that rook. Finally, bishop comes out, right? But I guess it's a little bit too late. Black's threatening to take on f2, but not a big deal. We can take the rook on h8. And after bishop f2. Another really cute position. I mean, I'm sure anything wins here. White's already up by the exchange. Well, you know, I guess black does have two pawns. But, you know, we are grabbing that h7 pawn. And white definitely has an upper hand and is winning here. But I really love white's next move. Again, you know, when you see a good move, don't rush to play it. If time allows, it's so important to consider your choices, right? I always tell my students, if you are playing the first move that looks obvious and first move you love, you know, you can't prove that's the best move, right? You don't know if that's the best move because that's the only option you looked at. So it's always nice to have options, whether it's in chess or outside of chess, right? So always consider at least 2-3 candidate moves. And the move that I absolutely love here is h4. I actually sometimes joke with my students about this move. I think all attacking players love h4 move, right? It comes up a lot in attacking style games. I actually joke that I don't think I have seen Garry Kasparov's game that he didn't play h4. You know, it seems like he finds a way to play h4, whether it's in the opening, middle game, or the end game. Somehow he sneaks that move in the game. And here, as you can see, after h4, black is completely lost because we are taking the escape square away. If bishop takes h4, we have this nice move here, getting the bishop. And if they play king h5, like they did in the game, again, look at your choices, right? Rook takes h7 or queen takes h7 might look the most obvious, but it looks like queen takes d5 might be even better. because now if king goes back to h6, we can maybe play queen d7. So that way now we're controlling g4 square and again attacking h7, right? So now if they can't escape anymore. So I don't know what else can we do here. If black plays f5, we have another nice checkmate.
That's nice. Yeah, h4 is a really nice move. Yeah, it's coming even more into fashion now with like the study of Alpha Zero and all the unusual positions that h4 are played in. But I do really like this final blow here. This is a great one.
Yeah, and then I have a little story about h4 as well. I remember I was playing in a tournament once. It's actually when I was studying at Columbia University. I think it was against Alexandra Wiener, and we were playing like between colleges, and I got into a middle game position where I couldn't find a plan. I just didn't know what to do, and I started to just play random moves. And you know what happens when you don't have a plan in chess? Your position slowly falls apart. Now, she had a nice plan, and she outplayed me. She actually played a really good game. Now, when I came home, I put the game into the computer, and at the moment where I had no idea what to do and I had to come up with a plan, hey, guess what computer suggested? I should have played h4. So now I joke with my students, if you don't know what to do and if you cannot find the plan, just play h4 and you should be fine. But yeah, I think h4 is definitely my favorite move of this game.
Nice. Yeah, me too. Well, thank you. Any final advice to the people watching, maybe because you've been so successful in both chess and in business, like, any final words about how you do that?
Sure. I think in chess, same in business, like it's important to set a goal. It's so important to have a goal, and I suggest to start with short-term goals. If you are 1500 and you say, oh, I want to become a grandmaster, that's probably a stretch, so maybe take 100 points at a time. Say, oh, I want to break 1600, right? Set a small goal that you can achieve, and then maybe put it up on the wall. Put your goal up on the wall. It has to be there for you to see. You need to be able to wake up and remind yourself that that's your goal, and you need to keep focusing on it, right? And then it's about consistency. You just have to do the work, and you have to do it constantly, because unfortunately, chess does not work once a month. If you want to become a better chess player, you have to work hard every week, right? And if you take breaks, you say, oh, I'm going to really study hard for a week and then forget about it for a month, it's not going to work. It's not going to do it for you. So that's why, putting your goal up is very important. And I think the same applies to business, finance, or any field, right? When you have a goal, you just have to remind yourself that it's something that you really want and work hard every day to achieve it.
Thank you, Rusa. And Karsten, Nicole, Kim, thank you so much for everything you did to put this one together.
Yeah, thanks, Rusa, for the wise words and the amazing lecture.
Thanks, everyone.
And thank you, Jen, for hosting us, of course.